Ever heard of Stellantis? They're the automotive powerhouse behind some of your favorite brands, like Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. But Stellantis is facing some serious challenges that are putting all the brands out of business. This might seem like a bit of a stretch, but the reality is that it is only a matter of time. It is simple logic. People are not buying their cars, and Stellantis is doubling down on their wrong strategy. But this is not just about strategies and mistakes. This is more than that. From dealerships to governments and the future of the market, everyone is involved, including you. Let me explain. What exactly is happening? Well, Stellantis just dropped their latest earnings report, and it's crazy. It was so bad for some of the brands under Stellantis that the government came to bail them out, but it didn't work. We're talking about a jaw-dropping 48% nosedive in net income for the first half of 2024. In cold, hard cash, that's a net profit of $6.07 billion. But why? Well, it's not just one thing, it's a perfect storm of troubles. Stellantis is selling fewer cars, losing ground in North America, and getting hammered by tricky exchange rates. It's like trying to drive through a financial hurricane. And if that wasn't enough to make your head spin, their adjusted operating income took a massive hit too. We're looking at $9.3 billion, which might sound like a lot, but it's actually $6.2 billion less than last year. That's the kind of drop that makes accountants break out in a cold sweat. And let's talk about Stellantis' inventory situation. Rows upon rows of shiny new cars are just sitting there, gathering dust. As of March 31, 2024, Stellantis had a whopping 1,393,000 vehicles in stock. That's enough cars to fill a small country. We're not just talking about this year's models, either. They've got a mix of 2022, 2023, and even 2024 vehicles that just aren't moving. It's like they threw a party and nobody showed up. What went wrong? Well, it looks like Stellantis got a bit too excited and overestimated how many high-priced vehicles people would want to buy. And some of these trucks are priced at over $110,000. That's more than some people's houses. So with interest rates climbing and everyone tightening their belts, those luxury SUVs are not going anywhere. So, what's Stellantis going to do about all this? They're not just sitting around twiddling their thumbs, that's for sure. So let's talk about it. Strategic shifting. As the car world keeps changing fast, Stellantis is at a crossroads. The next few months are going to be like watching a high-stakes race, and trust me, you won't want to miss a second of it. They've got plans to launch over 20 new vehicles throughout 2024. We're talking fresh faces like the updated Ram 1500 and the Peugeot 3008. It's like they're trying to hit the reset button on their entire lineup. But here's the million-dollar question, will it be enough? If Stellantis can't figure out what people actually want to buy, which probably is not $110,000 trucks, they could be in for a rough ride. It's like trying to sell ice to penguins, you've got to know your market. But what is the market like right now? Well, have you peeked at the price tags on these modern cars lately? We're talking about vehicles that'll set you back a staggering $110,000, and that's just the starting point. It's no small issue, either, as the average price of a brand new set of wheels in Canada has skyrocketed by a jaw-dropping 50% since 2020, now hovering around $60,000. Meanwhile, the prices for SUVs and trucks have climbed by a still hefty 25%, which hints at some major shifts in consumer preferences and market dynamics. But can you even wrap your head around that? It's enough to make you wonder, who in their right mind can actually afford these luxury land yachts? Spoiler alert, not too many folks. With interest rates for auto loans averaging a sky-high 8%, the current economic climate has only compounded these affordability issues. If your monthly payment on a new truck is pushing $1,400, you can bet your bottom dollar that people are thinking long and hard, or maybe even 3 times over, before inking that contract. So if the market is like this, why is Stellantis feeling it the most? And let's not forget, Stellantis is going all in on electrification, committing over €50 billion in the next decade to achieve 100% battery electric vehicle sales in Europe and 50% in the US by 2030. But the focus on luxury EVs might not be the answer to the immediate needs of budget-conscious families. It's a massive disconnect. Really, Stellantis keeps churning out those lavish SUVs, trying to peddle dreams that just don't resonate with the financial realities faced by so many consumers. It's like trying to sell gourmet meals at a fast food joint. The quality might be top-notch, but what the customers really want are affordable, satisfying options. Stellantis has been facing some serious headaches when it comes to keeping their cars running smoothly. Now, don't just take my word for it. The The big guns in the auto world, Consumer Reports and J.D. Power, have been shining a spotlight on these issues. And let me tell you, it's not exactly a pretty picture. Stellantis vehicles have been getting reliability ratings that would make even a rusty, abandoned truck blush. So, what does this mean for Stellantis and the broader auto market? If the company fails to adjust its strategy to align with the needs of families, it could be staring down a pretty bumpy road ahead. Analysts are warning that if Stellantis and other major players don't pivot towards more accessible vehicle options, they might find themselves sitting on a whole lot of unsold inventory and some seriously unhappy customers, which is already happening. The numbers speak volumes about this trend. In 2024, Stellantis reported that its luxury car manufacturing segment accounted for a whopping 18% of its overall revenue. That's a cool $12.5 billion, hinting at growing demand for those high-end models in certain markets. But here's the catch: this laser focus on luxury is totally out of sync with what today's consumers are truly craving. Families want practicality and affordability, not opulence. I mean, just look at the Grand Wagoneer in Stellantis' lineup. Sure, it's dripping with luxe features, but that price tag? Completely out of reach for a lot of folks. So, what does this mean for Stellantis and the broader auto market? If the company fails to adjust its strategy to align with the needs of families, it could be staring down a pretty bumpy road ahead. Analysts are warning that if Stellantis and other major players don't pivot towards more accessible vehicle options, they might find themselves sitting on a whole lot of unsold inventory and some seriously unhappy customers, which is already happening. And let's not forget, Stellantis is going all in on electrification, committing over €50 billion in the next decade to achieve 100% battery electric vehicle sales in Europe and 50% in the US by 2030. But the focus on luxury EVs might not be the answer to the immediate needs of budget-conscious families. It's a massive disconnect. Really, Stellantis keeps churning out those lavish SUVs. They have a lot of issues, and first up on our list are electrical gremlins. You know those pesky little buggers that make your car act like it's possessed? Yeah, those. Stellantis vehicles, especially fan favorites like the Jeep Wrangler and Chrysler Pacifica, have been throwing more tantrums than a toddler at bedtime when it comes to electrical issues. Imagine you're cruising down the highway in your shiny new Jeep Wrangler, which you spent all your savings on, feeling like the king of the road. Suddenly, your entertainment system decides it's the perfect time for a nap. The screen freezes, and your touch screen becomes unresponsive. Oh, and forget about jamming to your favorite tunes via Bluetooth, that's now not an option. And on top of all this, there are transmission troubles plaguing the Dodge Durango and Chrysler 300. It's like these cars have a mind of their own when it comes to shifting gears, and not in a good way. Owners have been reporting rough, jerky gear changes that feel more like a rodeo than a smooth highway cruise. And it's not just an annoyance. These transmission woes can also put a serious dent in your wallet. Some unlucky Stellantis owners have found themselves shelling out big bucks for costly repairs or even full-on replacements.